The British countryside is dotted with remote villages, each with their own superstitions and folklore. But perhaps the strangest tale comes from the village of Woolpit, an incident which is now known as the Green Children of Woolpit. According to the account of William of Newburgh, written years after the event in about 1189, it was during harvest time in the reign of King Stephen that two odd-looking children were discovered beside a wolf pit. Their skin was green and their clothing was unfamiliar. When the farmer who had discovered them tried to speak with them, they couldn't understand English and spoke back in an unknown language. Unknowing what to do with these strange children, the farmer decided to take them to the home of Richard de Kelney, the local lord. The pair refused all food for several days until they came across some raw broad beans, which they consumed eagerly. The children gradually adapted to normal food and in time lost their green colour. It was decided to baptise the children, but the boy, who appeared to be the younger of the two, was sickly and died before or soon after baptism. After learning to speak English, the surviving girl explained that they were brother and sister and came from a land where the sun never shone and the light was like twilight, turning everything there green, which they called St. Martin's Land. The girl's full account when questioned was thus: "We are inhabitants of the land of St. Martin, who is regarded with peculiar veneration in the country which gave us birth. We are ignorant of how we arrived here. We only remember this, that on a certain day, when we were feeding our father's flock in the field, we heard a great sound, such as now accustomed to hear at St. Martin's, when the bells are chiming, and whilst listening to the sound in admiration, we became on a sudden, as if it were, entranced, and found ourselves among you in the fields where you were reaping. The sun does not rise upon our countrymen. Our land is little cheered by its beams. We are contented with the twilight, which among you precedes the sunrise, or follows the sunset. Moreover, a certain luminous country is seen, not far distant from ours, and divided from it by a very considerable river." According to Ralph of Coggeshall, writing in 1220, the girl was employed for many years as a servant in Richard de Kelney's household, where she was considered to be very wanton and imprudent. She eventually married a man from King's Lynn, about 40 miles from Woolpit, where she was still living shortly before Ralph wrote his account. Explanations for the Green Children of Woolpit are many, though neither Ralph of Coggeshall or William of Newburgh offer an explanation for the strange and prodigious event. The historian Paul Harris, writing in 1998, argued for a simple explanation of the Green Children in the contents of 12th century history. He identifies them as the children of Flemish immigrants who arrived in eastern England during the early 12th century and were later persecuted after Henry II became king in 1154. He proposes that the children's homeland of St. Martin's Land was the village of Farnham St. Martin, just north of Bury St. Edmunds, and suggests that their parents were Flemish cloth workers settled there. Harris believed that the children's colour could be explained by hyperchromic anemia, also known as chlorosis or green sickness, the result of a dietary deficiency. Others, however, disagree and suggest that it was unlikely that an educated man like Richard de Kelney would not have recognised the language spoken by the children as being Flemish. Likewise, concerning green sickness, much of the contemporary population would probably have suffered from the same disease and also appeared green. The tone of green of the children's skin must have been something unprecedented and unusual. Explanations continue to be sought after, and two approaches have dominated the mystery of the green children. The first is that the narrative descends from folklore, describing an imaginary encounter with the inhabitants of a fairy otherworld. In a few early, as well as modern readings, this otherworld is extraterrestrial, and the green children are alien beings. Secondly is that it is a distorted account of a real event, although it is impossible to be certain whether the story, as recorded, is an authentic report given by the children or an adult invention. Folklorist Charles Oman's study of the story led him to conclude that there is clearly some mystery behind it all, some story of drugging and kidnapping. Medievalist Geoffrey Jerome Cohen offers a different kind of historical explanation, arguing that the story is no bleak account of the racial difference between the English and the indigenous Britons. The truth to the origin of the green children of Woolpit will never be known for certain, and is down to you as to what you believe, but their mysterious tale is infamous in British folklore.